You guys, Pete Ramsey, your HVAC greatness. I know this is a strange title, but hear me out. You're not going to believe how important something as subtle as your daddy putting you in karate class is and how it applies to business. Okay, so the story goes back about 4 years ago. I had four pit bull dogs, and we had them in our property, and they were all rescue dogs. We had some people over. We're going to cook out. We're going to have a good time. And the dogs had a rubber ball. So our visitors were playing ball with the dogs. What could go wrong, right? Well, I'm over at the grill and I start to hear screaming, and it was all the way on the other side of the pool. It was no short distance. And I knew because I could hear the dogs. It was a dog fight. So I'm running over there. As I come around the corner, there's my alpha female on top of the newly adopted female. And she was no slacker, black and white, but she was on top of that dog thrashing back and forth. You know how pits do. It's life or death for them. Well, it's hard to get them to let go. If you know anything about dogs, they're going to latch on, they're not going to let go. However, when I ran up, I did, I, I'm up behind the female who was on top of and behind the other female. I grabbed the back of her neck and her buttocks by the skin, and I gave her a release command and pulled, and she did. She released. Okay. So I tossed her out of the way, and here was the reaction. So here's this female who is really just traumatized in the moment. And unconsciously, I want to calm her. So as I throw the one dog off, I immediately comfort her. And there she is, right down on my arm, all the way to the bone. She just reacted, right? She was in a state, and I'm coming from behind her. She didn't see it. Bites all the way to the bone, and here comes blood out around her teeth. But she realizes she didn't thrash. She realizes it was me. So she got to half let go and then let go. And then got them separated. Everything was okay. I went. I still got scars all through here. And got some stitches and everything else, and just missed a major vein here. So it's called close call. The point is, I had a reaction, and it was a well-intended reaction. It was to calm this poor traumatized dog, but it backfired. It backfired because it was a reaction. Now, let me give you another example. I was about 15 years old, and I loved to ride a skateboard. I was good. We did all the hills and would jump and do all the tricks and everything else. I don't know if you've ever done that. But one of the things about skateboards is you have to get some really smooth concrete or asphalt in order for it to be enjoyable. Okay. And so you always want to avoid area where they have these rocks. The reason is if your skateboard is coming up and it comes upon a rock, the rock can literally get pinned between the wheel and the concrete and just stop your skateboard still, but you aren't going to stop. You're going to continue to project forward, right? So you have to avoid rocks. I'm riding my skateboard, and I had a little sister, 9-year-old little sister, and she wanted to ride. Well, if I put her on this skateboard, she was going to fall off, skin her knees, and fall down. Well, I had an idea. What could go wrong, right? I'm going to ride the skateboard and put her on the front of it. We're just going to go down the hill and finish out the other side. She can experience the rush of going down that hill. So we get to the top of the hill. Everything looks great, but then something happened. I didn't take into account I had a skateboarder's mindset and way of thinking, but she didn't. She had a little girl's innocent way of thinking, and it created a situation. Here's what happened. As I'm going down, catching the bottom of the hill, it flattens out into a really gravelly area. We don't skateboard through gravelly areas. To the right was a newly paved section where all the cars parked on it. And the pavement extended behind the cars about 3 or 4 feet. And of course, I was paying attention. There were no cars coming out. I'm going to ride over in the smooth section behind the cars on that new asphalt for a smooth finish to our ride. And then this happened. As I'm turning towards the cars to come around on the smooth part, I'm thinking smooth asphalt. My sister's thinking he's going to hit the car. She freaks out, and her little feet that were on the front of the board jump up and down. She screams, the car, the car. And what happened is it pushed the front of the skateboard down. It's like a wheelie, only backwards, and the skateboard stopped. Now we're going through at a pretty good click. Guess what happens? She falls flat on her face. It was really bad. It scabbed up. She had a it's not funny. She had a scab on her face for a long time. And mom was still talking about it years later, that she would take her to the store and other parents would give her dirty looks like, what have you done to that child? Right. So anyway, my sister fell flat on her face and I was above her flying through the air and watching her fall beneath me. But as I flew over, I tucked my right shoulder onto the concrete, rolled out to my feet, spun around, and picked my little sister up, to take care of her. And I did. But how in the world did I have that reaction? How was that possible? How come I didn't fall on my face and she did? The reason was practice. Some years before, Dad had put me in karate class, and we did all kinds of exercises. We would practice the punches and kicks and blocks and all kinds of things. But they did this one thing where they had all the mats out and they had these like punching bag things. And our assignment was what we were practicing. You'd run up to the bags and dive over them. And it was all, foam mat, and tuck and roll on the other side, roll to your feet. And we tuck and roll, dive, tuck and roll, dive, tuck and roll. And we were like, why are we doing this? And the instructor said, well, if you're ever in a fight and you get thrown, you don't want to fall on your face. You come right to your feet. This is the safest way to do it. Okay. Years later, after putting my body through a practice, guess what happened when a real life situation came up? My reaction didn't hurt me like with the dogs. It served me to protect myself and therefore be quick to assist my sister. That didn't turn out so good. So what does this mean to you? When you're out in front of customers and you're trying to sell, or when your comfort advisor, comfort consultant is trying to sell, or when your service technician is interacting with customers, they're going to be confronted by certain situations. And it's kind of human nature as to what they're going to experience. This is why we have processes in place that are designed, number one, to prevent certain situations or at least minimize the possibility they're going to happen. And number two, to have some pre-practice responses in place, practice in the back of their mind, so that when they go through these situations, training kicks in. And what feels like a natural response, and technically it is, right in front of your customer, is actually something that you prepared your team for. And that is why we have role playing. That's why we develop processes and systems. And that's why if you're going to be successful in the retail game, you got to train your team. Anyway, that's the story for the day. Pete Ramsey here, HVAC Greatness. You guys be safe out there. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.